Welcome to On Texas Football, a special Monday edition. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. Gerry, how you doing today? Emerging the victor in the trivia contest yesterday.
It was one of those things where I feel like I won on a couple of technicalities, so I just kind of set back and it just kind of happened, right?
I think you won fair and square, my man. I think you won fair and square. Don't do yourself any disservice. We wanted to have a little special edition this Monday. Since I'm going to be gone the rest of the week, actually going on vacation. So it'll be my first vacation in more than a year, actually, almost a year to the date, since I had a true vacation this week. Gerry is going to be manning the fort. So I'm going to do this. Gerry, you're going to be moving into the captain's seat here.
Okay.
You're going to be leading the discussion today. So feel free. We've got some news and notes we want to share before I get going this week. Gerry, you feel free to ask away, buddy.
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about the freshman class. Who's doing well that was an early enrollee so far? 17 early enrollees. We're only 15 days from spring practice, so not long off until these guys actually put the feet on the football field with pads on. But we've talked a lot. We've heard a lot. Phil Samee, Brandon Baker. We've heard some of those names. Bobby, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the tight end position, because Niblack was a big win in the portal, and you'd reported on him. He got off to a strong start at Texas, obviously. He's had a boot on, off and on, just continuing to heal from Alabama, late season deal there. But what about Jordan Washington? We've had a lot of questions on Texas Football about Jordan Washington in our chats and various things. Have we heard anything on Jordan Washington? Because he came into Texas as a raw basketball player turning football player, really well coached by Todd Thompson at Langham Creek. So I think his transition may be pretty smooth, but what are we hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked to someone over the weekend. This is in conjunction. I talked to somebody the week before about some players. I got a chance to reconnoiter and ask again and talk about some other players, potentially, Gerry, for this week's episode here. And long story short is Jordan Washington was one of the names that came up as being extremely promising as a young guy during winter workouts. The exact notes are just off of his workouts, he looks right. He has good demeanor. He's an excellent athlete. What they really like about him, Gerry, and this is something that you can speak to, is they like his lower body development at this stage of his career. Like, he's obviously going to get bigger as the years go on, but he's not starting off as really pencil thin and going to have to put a lot of weight on before he can actually be helpful. But checking all those other boxes were almost an automatic, because we knew he was that kind of athlete, right? You had described him to us all, and we saw the film. But adding that other piece in, I think, surprised the coaches to some level in a pleasant way, right? In a very pleasant way. So I think Jordan Washington, if I had a stock symbol going up or down, I'd be putting up right now on him based on where he was rated as a recruit, for sure.
And that makes sense. I think he got up into the 225-pound range as a senior from 206, 208 as a junior. And his lower body in person was ahead of his upper body, as you would expect. Basketball player, was used to jumping vertically, had that strength in that base. So when he got in the weight room, he was going to stack some pretty decent weight into that those hip areas down through those legs. And he had he isn't a guy that had skinny calves on a bigger, tall frame. He was pretty well proportioned, but that makes sense to me as far as his weight. I think he'll eventually play around 245, 250 will be a good weight for him. But the second piece of his development will definitely be the upper body strength. But again, once you get off the basketball court and you get into a college strength and conditioning program in football, those guys tend to stack weight pretty quickly in muscle mass.
Yep, absolutely. Some other freshmen. I've mentioned before, Brandon Baker's looking good. Daniel Cruz, Ryan Wingo, Aaron Butler, Alex January got mentioned again. A couple other guys, Zena Umeozulu.
Yeah.
Really people talking about him highly. Quote, look out, he's going to be something. He is no diva, and he's locked in.
It goes
not a bad comment for a guy that comes in, and I was told he came in 6'5", 225, 230, and is dialed in. And so Physically, he may actually take longer to develop as a player than, say, a Colin Simmons, who already has been a very productive player in high school. Zena, not necessarily as productive, but his length, Jerry, is super, elite level. And they say football seems to be really, really important to him, which I think is a big thing that they're monitoring at all levels these days, but particularly as Steve Sarkisian continues to try to build out a culture where he wants guys who football is genuinely important to.
Yeah, and it falls in line with what Nathan Daughtry, who trained him and Xavier Filsami and has Riley Pettijohn now in that McKinney area. It falls in line with what he said when he was on Coffee and Football. He said, no BS, hard worker, gets the extra reps in, off the record, never misses workout, always on time, right? So that goes into the guy who's locked in. And the biggest thing to me with all these kids is who really understands how you go about maximizing your talent. Because of the level of players Texas is recruiting, the guys that truly understand it and stay the course have a chance to have a career in football. Bottom line, that's the talent level Texas is recruiting. So the guys who understand, okay, that's my ceiling, first of all, and second, how do I get to that ceiling? And the guys that understand how to get to their ceiling and then go get it done, they end up having a career in football.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked some more about some of the freshmen. You mentioned Phil Samay. He is certainly one. Wardell Mack was another. Anthony Smith, they said excellent athlete, just a little thin right now because he's played so many different sports, so many different positions as well. So there is a list of guys, Jerry, that out of this freshman class that they think really, really highly of, in my opinion, just based on what I've heard unofficially, so to speak.
I think a big thing, too, with the names you mentioned is it was a 3-man offensive line class, and Nate Kibble's not the early enrollee. But there's a lot of talk that the 2 early enrollees are definite keepers. And they're at the positions that are most important, center and either right tackle, left tackle, whatever Brandon Baker ends up playing.
Brandon Baker's the possible third tackle.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, I know Trevor Gooseby and Jaden Chapman have a year on him. Brandon Baker, according to some folks, is a guy that came in with a very Kelvin Banks-like no BS attitude. And football is extraordinarily important to him as well. And I'm just telling you, they think that he's going to be a terrific player. Now, is he going to be able to outstretch somebody that Trevor Gooseby, who's 6'8" and long-armed, or Jaden Chapman, who has a full year on him? I don't know. I'm just telling you, he's that kind of guy. And then as far as Daniel Cruz is concerned, similar. I just really like his football demeanor and how he takes to workouts and what he's trying to do. I'll add some other things. And the other piece that I tried to ask about were not just the true freshmen, Jerry, but also the true sophomores / redshirt freshmen that we don't really hear a lot about, right? I mean, look, they're behind other people. Cecilia Kana, Darian Gillette, guys like that who we know have promise, but people haven't seen yet, and we're still a month away from getting into spring ball here, or 20 days away, 25 days away from getting in to spring ball. I look at it, Jerry, and the name that came immediately up was Darian Gillette. They say he looks terrific, much improved from last year. They think he may be eventually an edge. Not sure. I mean, he's working at linebacker, but so athletic, first quick, great body control is what they said, which was interesting. And good knee bend, very, very good athlete. That was a guy that they kind of picked out, that I was told got picked out kind of as a, hey, watch for this one. Cecilia Kana, I mentioned him. He is a very good athlete. They still got to add weight to him a little bit. He's still a little bit behind because of that. But, again, a good athlete. DeAndre Moore was a guy that was singled out, as well as Jonte Cook. Both of those receivers should get some early playing time. I mentioned Jaden Chapman and Trevor Gooseby. Connor Stroh got some nice run from what I was told. Again, a guy that may never be a starter at Texas, but who could be a third offensive guard, and football, again, categorized as very important to him. You see a trend of what I'm talking about here. That was one of the things. I'm going to save all of that. Two guys that also stood out. One, Derek Williams, again, got mentioned again. The quote was, "I think he will be the next Thorpe finalist at Texas." That's how good that he might be. The other one is Jelani McDonald. I love him. Was the exact quote. He is working at safety right now, not nickel or anything else, but just safety. And I'm telling you now, McDonald, Makuba, Taft, guys like Derek Williams, they have some guys in the secondary right now that just have to put it together.
Yeah,
right?
that position, Bobby, huge upgrade in terms of overall athleticism, height, length. Big time. I mean, big time. That's the additions of a Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams in year 2, Makuba, and Phil Samia is an elite athlete, right? And, I want to say something else about Brandon Baker that you mentioned. That's going to make it easier for Texas to transition Jaden Chapman to guard long term. Because he is an excellent athlete, very good player, but that will make for an easier transition to guard if that's where he settles out. And that's kind of where I think he'll settle. So that's another big piece about having Brandon Baker look really good, assuming that transitions to the pads, because that changes the way that offensive line looks down the line. But so, yeah, that's all great stuff, Bobby. And it'll be interesting. Who would have thought 3 years ago when Texas was hired, or Sarkisian was hiring those guys, that center is arguably the deepest position in a program. There were some years you were looking at who's the starting center. Is he big enough to hold up? You're sitting there now with Jake Majors, Cole Hudson, who can play center, Connor Robertson, who played admirably against OU, and a freshman in Daniel Cruz, who may be better than all of them. I mean, Texas, that's depth. That's building offensive line depth. When you're sitting there talking about 3 or 4 guys who could play center and be really good players for you, that's a good sign for Texas.
A couple other notes that I had, just larger notes. Savion Red. I mean, think about him. Started off as a wide receiver at Texas, right? Apparently up to 235 pounds and looks great.
Yeah.
Looks great. 235 pounds. Just think about that. The other one was Malik Agbo. There was a time where they thought he had starting guard potential for them. Yeah. He's in the 280s now. He could even get even lighter and actually be a tight end, Jerry.
Yeah.
But he has looked good. A little bit of a tweener now because of his size, right? He lost all that weight. Now he's putting it back on the right way. Something for everybody to watch for.
But look, when Agbo was recruited, he had the quickest feet of any offensive lineman Kyle Flood's recruited at Texas, period. The quickest feet. Yeah. And that's why he's made that transition to tight end. And he is like having a third tackle and pass pro on the field.
Yep, absolutely. He apparently has looked good and continues to just reshape his body. It may be a 3 or 4 year process for him based on where he started at. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Everybody's running a different race, right? Some people like Anthony Hill, they started running when they were a baby. Exactly. And haven't stopped, right? I mean, some people come in and need to mature a little bit, need time to get going. And so I think it's interesting to look at not only the true freshmen, but some of those sophomores or redshirt freshmen that people need to be aware of. Trey Weiser, another name that came up as a guy that's going to be just a terrific gunner in 2024, and also be a guy that spells some people in the backfield at times. Just a really, really good all-around athlete. I tell you what, you look at it, and Texas is in a situation where they got a little bit of an embarrassment of riches, Jerry. Yep. Overall, that's what that tells me. And look, I was going through asking, like, is this guy going to play pro football? We were all, it was during the middle of the combine, so that was top of mind for me. And both of those 23 and 24 classes, if they had to do it right now, they'd say 10 plus will play in the NFL.
That's sustained success is what that
yes.
is.
Yeah. So that's early feedback on those classes. Relative.
And let's say something else on Brandon Baker. Why should that not be surprising to us? Modern day IMG, DeAndre Moore came in and had a good spring out of Bosco. There's certain programs that are run like mini college programs, and your competition, like Brandon Baker's lining up against Nasir Wyatt, the D tackle Aiden Breland, who signed with Oregon in this class, 24 class. IMG, Jarrett Gibson looks good, right? We've both heard it. Jarrett Gibson, a guy that Texas is very high on early on. We shouldn't be surprised. He's at IMG. Him and Jordan Johnson-Rebel were considered leaders of that program. Those guys have pretty much were in a small college program for 2 years at IMG. So those guys the guys that excel at an IMG or at a modern day, those guys tend to have a pretty quick transition to the college game. Now we'll see what happens when the pads come on. But if they have that quick transition and everything else, then they play football with a little more freedom early on than me.
Jarrett Gibson looks and works out like an adult, to your point. Okay. The question is going to be, is he quick enough to be an every down bell cow type back? Because he's physically ready to go, is what I'm told. Hey, I want to mention this. We talked a little bit about the combine. We did not get a real chance to show some love to Christian Jones.
Had a good day.
He had a great day. I talked to someone. I actually talked to his agent late last night. Christian could sneak into the top 100 picks in the NFL draft here, Jerry. He had that kind of day. 5'06", long arms, scouts. He's met with 26 of 32 teams. That's abnormally high. Just so you know, not a lot of O linemen visit with that many people. 26 of 32, had over 3,200 snaps, and had very few physical ailments. None that were season-ending. His entire career.
Football. Yes,
and he played a lot of football. Teams are drawn to that, his athleticism, his size, and the fact, Jerry, this is something that was brought up. He's still getting better.
Yeah,
I mean, he's still becoming a better football player in his 5th or 6th year of college. That means the coaches. The NFL can see another path for him. So congratulations to Christian Jones.
And it's like Rod said, with the practice squad rosters expanding, you could even draft him a little higher and put him in more of a stash and develop, what they're calling it in basketball, for a year. I mean, it's not out of the question that if they see this guy can get a lot better, then you could, even though you're paying him 3rd, 4th round money, you could develop him like he really wasn't.
I completely agree. It's like in recruiting. I mean, it's the take and bake, right? You get some people, again, you get that chance. Jones, by the way, I mentioned this once before, he's got position versatility too.
That's the big thing.
And so he can be a right tackle, can be a guard. There's a lot of things he can do, and he's got the arm length and the strength combo.
If the pros feel like he can physically hold up in pass pro against the guys who are going to be lined up against across from him, that's a very good sign for his longevity in football.
No doubt. I mean, you could talk 7, 8, 9, 10-year guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I totally agree. I think I thought the 3 days were a great day for University of Texas football. I have 6-7 million impressions on social media. And I said it this morning on Coffee and Football, but Xavier Worthy had a moment that's going to live for a decade for Texas football. And when guys who have had 30 for 30s like Bo Jackson or comment on social media, that's really good for a football program. I'm guessing we could count on one hand the times Bo Jackson's tweeted about somebody in an NFL combine.
That's so true. That's so true. All right. Hey, Jerry, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. I'm out until Sunday. Jerry, you guys have got it. You, CJ, Blake, Coach Shipley, Rod Babers, all going to be doing it this week. You guys have a good one, man, and I appreciate you.
Have a good vacation. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, hook 'em.